Okay, so this is the first video of Badass Media Production Season 4, and I want to do a video about Star Wars, and the subject of this video is, of course, Grand Moff Tarkin, and I feel he's one of the most underappreciated and most underrated villain in the Star Wars saga. So what I want to do in this video is I want to put this guy under the spotlight and just show you why this character is such a badass. So in order for me to do this, I'm going to be looking back at previous Star Wars narratives. So this will include Rogue One. So there will be some spoilers about Rogue One. So if you haven't seen Rogue One, and go ahead, watch the film, and then come back and watch this video if you want to. So let's look at Tarkin's appearance. Like, Tarkin had a very kind of ordinary kind of look about him. He was less surreal than other Star Wars villains. He was very much a military officer. He was a guy in his 60s or so with kind of silver whitish hair, and he was kind of dressed like kind of a chauffeur, like a grey like kind of chauffeur type jacket. But he was a character who was really compelling and really dominating in each scene he was in. Now let's compare him to other Star Wars villains in terms of appearance. So we had Emperor Palpatine, who had this really cool robe about him, disfigured face, and of course he had the super arthritis fingers, and that actually made for a really interesting kind of villain. We also had Darth Vader, who of course had that really cool battle armor. He had that great helmet. He had, of course, the ways with the Force. He had this hatred of sand. And, of course, he was voiced by James Earl Jones. We also had Jabba the Hutt, who had his obesity. He had this absolute mass about him, in which he dominated every single scene he was in. Literally dominated every scene he was in because he was that big. And he had actually a great taste in gold bikinis. There was also Boba Fett, the bounty hunter, who had a great arsenal of weapons. He had a great looking helmet. But this guy, I'm going to say Boba Fett, gets way more praise than, of course, Tarkin. I mean, Boba Fett, we only do really see him, face off against Luke Skywalker, and that was really it. We didn't see him do anything that impressive. But Tarkin has done so much more than Boba Fett, but he doesn't get as much love. Okay, so let's look at Tarkin through the Star Wars narratives and what role he played in each Star Wars narrative, in each Star Wars installment. So if you look back at the Star Wars kind of animated series, Star Wars The Clone Wars, we see that Tarkin does actually appear in the show, and he actually is very much a much younger character. He's very ambitious young officer, and he wants to keep going through the ranks and become a really ambitious general-like character. And we see that he has a relationship with Anakin, and he has a relationship with, of course, Palpatine. And this really does benefit him quite a bit, because in the end of Revenge of the Sith, we see all three of them looking at the underdeveloped Death Star, which was really cool and made for a great scene. And in between the events of Revenge of the Sith and, of course, A New Hope, we see that Tarkin and Vader are working together to actually hunt down rebels and hunt down Jedi, and that was really cool. His appearance in Star Wars Rebels is really interesting and really intriguing, because it just shows you how intimidating a character he is without being a physically violent character, without being a character that's physically massive. He's a character that uses his vocals, uses his threats to actually get things done, and we see this with how he handles the Inquisitors and how he talks to Agent Callus. He pretty much tells everyone to just get your shit together because I'm Grand Tarkin, and it's so interesting in that way. Now I'm going to talk about Rogue One. Now, Rogue One, a lot of people had different views about how they saw Grand Tarkin, because sadly Peter Cushing is not with us anymore, and he was played by a different actor, an actor by the name of Guy Henry, who done a wonderful job with the performance of Tarkin. Now, a lot of people were quite distracted with the idea of Peter Cushing's face being mapped onto Guy Henry's body, but I myself, I wasn't too bothered with that, because I feel that Tarkin, he needed a role in Rogue One. He's an important character, and the basic plot of Rogue One was to get the plans to the Death Star, the original Death Star, which was commanded by Grand Tarkin himself. Now, interesting enough, we see his relationship with the lead kind of antagonist of Rogue One, and that, of course, was director Orson Krennic. And it's interesting seeing this relationship, because he's very much a character who's ambitious, and he himself is similar to Tarkin, but he doesn't have that cold-bloodedness about him. He's just not quite there. And we see that Orson is quite a a demanding type character. He wants, credit for weaponizing the Death Star. He wants an audience with Emperor Palpatine. And we see that Tarkin is having none of this. He is constantly looking down at Orson Krennic. And it's really interesting in that sense. It just shows you what type of character Tarkin is, that he has this kind of confidence about him, and he has this air about him where he'll look down at people who are not even on the same level of him. And we see that Tarkin does develop a trust in and a belief in the Death Star, and we do see him actually using the weapon at the very end of the film. And of course, this weapon leads to the death of a lot of the main heroes of that film, and of course the death of Orson Krennic, and which was really interesting because he himself kind of takes all his credit for the Death Star, and it just shows you what type of character Tarkin is, the type of character who will do anything to rise through the ranks. And of course, A New Hope. Let's talk about A New Hope. People forget this a lot. Grand Tarkin is the main antagonist of that movie. People often overlook that. Darth Vader, one of the reasons why he survives that movie was mainly because he was on henchman duty. And I don't want to, belittle Darth Vader, but that's the truth. That's why he survived those events. It almost feels like Darth Vader is on an internship with Tarkin. It just feels like Tarkin is trying to teach him the ropes of how to be a villainous type character, which is really interesting, really cool, because we see that there's moments in the film where Darth Vader wants to force choke the shit out of someone, and Tarkin's like, yo, come on, Vader, let's drop the shit. Because, that's not cool. Not cool in my Death Star. You can't just kill people on my Death Star. And of course, Darth Vader listens. Darth Vader has the ability to force choke the shit out of Tarkin at any moment. But that never happens. Because they have a great relationship with each other. They have a mutual respect. And we see that in each scene of A New Hope. We also see that Darth Vader almost advises Tarkin in some moments, and the two kind of are always advising each other as well, and that's really interesting, a really compelling relationship between the two. We also see that how much of a cold and compelling character he is. And he's a type of character, although he's so high up, he's not the main antagonist. Of course, he's still very much serving Emperor Palpatine, but we do see him destroy Alderaan without a hesitation whatsoever. He blows up that planet without caring about the deaths that he caused, which is really interesting. It just made him stand out more as a villain. He's not like a Batman villain or a James Bond villain who kind of hesitates and schemes and kind of tells the main hero what his plans are. He just does his job. That's what actually makes him such an interesting villain, actually. He's the type of character who physically doesn't look massive. He's not in ways with the Force. He's much more older gentleman. He's a character who never shouts, he never roars, he never gets really violent. He's the type of character who has a calm exterior about him, yet he dominates every single scene he's in. And that's mainly because of Peter Cushing's incredible performance. There is an interesting fact that I learned about Star Wars, and it was the fact that Peter Cushing, the boots that he wears as Tarkin, they didn't fit him right. So for most of the parts of the film, he's seen shot in such a way in terms of close-ups and kind of like mid shots, because the shoes were so uncomfortable. So he had to wear carpet shoes. But you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to let Peter Cushing himself actually tell you that story, because I think that gentleman can just tell you the story way better than me.
Well, I don't think I'll share. Yes, I will. How we propose it? See there? It's over 12 inches from there to there. Big feet. Now, Berman and Nathan's have looked after me, man and boy, for years and years and years. And they've never let me down once, except on this occasion, because I was dressed as rather like an Edwardian chauffeur, with a high collar up here and sort of fountain pens across here, as Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars. And a pair of boots, riding boots, that came right up to here, tight-fitting, you see. Incidentally, I've often wondered what a Grand Moff is. Sounds like something that came out of a clothes closet. Grand Moff, you know. I've gone off the track. They hadn't got time to have my boots made for me, which is usually the case because of my large feet. So I had to do with a pair out of stock. So there I was on the first day of shooting, this very, very cross, unpleasant gentleman, Grand Moff Tarkin, stomping around, and it was agony, Ivy. It really was. So the next day I said to dear George Lucas, the director, I said, George, I am not asking for close-ups, but do you think you could shoot me from the waist upwards from now on? And he said, why? And I explained the reason. So he said, oh, all right. And he gave me a pair of carpet slippers. So for the rest of the film, I stomped around looking extremely angry and very cross with that dear little Carrie Fisher as old Grand Moff Tarkin in carpet slippers.
I feel that, Grand Tarkin could easily pull off intimidating even with carpet slippers, because that's how much of a great villain he is. So my friends, what I want you guys to do is, I want you to check out Rogue One. I want you to check out the original trilogy again and just watch Tarkin. Just watch Tarkin and just be compelled by this great villainous character, because that's what he is. Tarkin is just a great Star Wars villain who does not get the appreciation that he so rightly deserves. Thanks for watching, guys, and tell me, are you a fan of Grand Tarkin as a villain? Do you think he's overrated? Do you think he's underrated? Please put it down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see.